Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Sam Healey.
Today we're taking a look at a big box game being released by Fantasy Flight called Forbidden Stars. Forbidden Stars is set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, which is from Games Workshop.
Yep.
One that Sam and I have had extensive experience in, him more than me, but we both played with armies in this. It's a miniature style game that we played for a while. This is a different sort of game. This is kind of a space conquest game. You can watch, I'm about to show you a little bit about how the game plays, but you can also watch a live, we played a two-player version of it, so you can see that on our channel. But let's get to how this game plays, and then we'll tell you what we think.
Yeah.
When playing this game, you're going to have one of four different factions: the Eldar, the Orcs, the Space Marines, and the Chaos Space Marines. Each of these factions comes with a sheet that shows you the stats of the different units that are in the game, and there are a pile of plastic units. Each unit has a different shaped piece, so they're pretty easy to tell apart. And if you look here at these different stats, you'll notice, for example, here in the Space Marines, right here, a regular Space Marine, they cost 3 materia. That's how much it costs to build them. They roll 2 dice in combat. They have 3 hit points, and they bring 3 morale to battles. You also notice there's this number here. That's how many cities you have to have built to build that unit. And down at the bottom, a couple of the bigger units, like these Titans here, will also need a forge hammer to build them. At the beginning of the game, players are going to build the board, and they're going to get a certain number of starting units and material that they'll be able to build in factories and different buildings, and that's on the flip side of their starting sheet. The board is going to be built out of different double-sided tiles. Players are going to take turns placing these out there. Each player has a certain number of starting units that they're going to place out. There's also going to be warp storms. Warp storms will be placed between tiles, basically keeping units moving from one of those to the other. Each tile is made up of different areas. There are worlds, and then there is open space. That's considered to be the void. Players are going to be given some of their tokens to other players. These tokens are going to be placed by other players on planets. To win the game, you have to capture a certain number of these tokens back, and that number depends on the number of players. So let's say you're playing a 4-player game. You need to capture 4 of these, or in an 8-round game, which the game takes 8 rounds, whoever has the most after 8 rounds is the winner. At the beginning of each round, players are going to take turns placing out 4 different order markers on the board. You actually have 8 order markers, 2 of each. So you're going to pick 4. It doesn't matter which 4 you pick. And you're going to place them in the middle of an area as long as you have units in that area or adjacent to that area. So you can place them in multiple areas. You can place them on the same spot, making a stack. In fact, multiple players can place them on top of the same spot, meaning that these orders are going to be resolved from top to bottom. The way that works is at the beginning of a round, in player order, after everyone's placed these, each player will take the top one of any stack that they control and flip it over and do whatever that order says. Now, you may not have any that are on the top of a pile at the beginning of your turn, so you basically just pass and have to wait until someone gets rid of one that's on top of your stack and resolves that. So let's take a look at the different types of orders. The first order is Dominate. When you dominate, you're going to take each planet that you control, and some of them have red symbols there, and you will get a token of that type. This one here gives you a reinforcement token. Those can be used in battle. It basically is an extra troop that can suck up some of the damage of your smallest type. You can get forge hammers. Those are used to build some of your biggest units, and they can also be used to build a unit. When you need a certain number of cities to build some units, this reduces the number of cities you need to build a unit. And some of them give you these little double gear tiles, and that lets you, when you're buying units, subtract 2 from the cost of a unit. Each player also has a special ability that when they dominate, they can do something like, for example, here, the Ultramarines, when they dominate, they can spend a material to upgrade one of their units, a scout to a Space Marine, or a Space Marine to a Land Raider. A deploy order lets you put out more units and buildings. First you build units, which you can only do if you have a factory. There's a factory. A factory will let you build units equal to the number of skulls in the region that's there. So I can build, as long as I have the prerequisites and the resources, I can build units in friendly areas. After you build units, or even if you don't build units, you can build another building, although each world can only have one building. So I could build a factory somewhere, or maybe I could build a city. Cities are required for prerequisites for buying different cards and some of the resources. Or I could build a bastion, which is a building that helps defense against orbital bombardments, and also when someone attacks your planet, a bastion will give you dice to help you defend. A strategize token allows you to buy strategy cards. Each player begins the game with a deck of 10 strategy cards that they're going to be using in combat. And when you strategize, you have more cards that you'll be able to go through and pay the cost as long as you have the prerequisite number of cities. So I might say, ooh, I want to buy the Mark of Corn cards. So I buy them as a pair, and I pick 2 of the cards in my deck. I don't want Foul Worship anymore, and replace them. And so as the game goes by, you can make your deck of 10 cards better. You also are allowed to buy order cards. What these do is when you pay the cost for these, you put these in front of you, and from now on, whenever you use that specific order, it's going to do something different than it normally does. Like, for example, this order here lets you move and attack things normally, but this lets you move through warp storms when you play this. And so each of these can upgrade one of your orders. The final order here is this order, which is the advance, or the move and attack order. And what you're going to do is you can move anything in that area or from one adjacent area. So if I'm the Chaos player, I can move my ships. So my ships can go from one void area, from the area I'm coming from, to one void area here. So I move them here. Then I can move troops as long as those troops move through a line of areas I control. So I might have left one ship here. This guy can come and attack this planet from moving through that ship, and this guy can go like that and attack the planet also, which would then start a combat. The first thing you do when you have combat is you figure out how many dice each of the players rolls, and you're going to roll those dice. So here, this guy rolls 3, he rolls 1. So this guy has rolled these dice. The dice have guns, shields, and eagles morale symbols on them. So here he rolled 3 guns and 1 shield. The Chaos player gets to roll 7 dice and has rolled 2 shields, a morale symbol, and 4 guns. Now there's more guns on these tokens than anything else. Now after players do that, they decide whether they want to bring in any reinforcements. So let's say the Space Marine player decides he's going to bring in 1. This counts the same as this troop here, and so they have, these are the battle. Players will now take that deck of 10 cards I told you about, they're going to shuffle it, and they're going to draw those 5 of those cards into their hand. They're going to each pick a card from their hand and play that card. So let's say the Chaos Marine, he's the attacker, so he plays his first, and he plays this Impure Zeal card. Well, the first thing we do is we look at the card, and we see that it's going to add another gun and another shield to his total results. Also, it says if you have more morale than your opponent, rally one of your units, which means that he would get to, if one of his units had been wounded, routed, he would have been able to turn it back up. That hasn't happened, so we don't have to worry about that. The bottom part of the card only happens if you have one of those units in the battle. So this says if you have a cultist or an icon class, you can do that thing at the bottom, but he doesn't have one of those units in battle. So simply, he just gets those tokens added. The Space Marine player plays this card here, the Emperor's Glory. This adds 2 shields and 2 morale. It also shows here that he gets 2 dice, and that simply means that that player is going to roll 2 more dice and add them to his total. So he rolled 2 dice here, gives him 2 more guns. And then on the bottom, it says Warlord Titan or Battle Barge. Well, he happens to have a Warlord Titan in this, so he gets to rally all of his units, which he doesn't need to do, and it says, then convert any of your dice into morale. Well, he doesn't want to do that this round. He's just going to leave them the way they are. So now after everyone does that, we move into the damage phase, and we see if anyone has damaged anyone else. So first we look at the Chaos Marines. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guns, and then we look here at the Space Marines. They have 3 shields. So 2 damage is done to the Space Marines. Now the Space Marine can pick one of their units to take that 2 damage. If that kills a unit, let's say they pick the reinforcement token here, that would simply kill it because these guys only have 2 hit points. Let's say they wanted to take it on this Titan node, he has 5 hit points. Instead of killing them, because it's not enough to kill them, they would just rout them. Now you have to pick an unrouted unit, so the next time if he took 2 more damage, he would have to kill one of these. But let's say he kills the reinforcement. Then we look at how much damage the Space Marines do. They do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guns, and the Chaos have 3 shields. So again, that's 2 damage. That's not enough to kill either of these units, so they have to simply rout one of these. Players will then each play an additional card. Now, when they play the additional cards to their totals, the symbols from the first cards will stay, and occasionally when you play a card, it will bring in tokens that stay for 1 round only, and you continue doing this. After the 3rd round, if both teams have units still around, you can win by destroying the opponent. But if both sides have units still around, you will then count up all the morale tokens and symbols on each side. You will add the full morale total for each unit that is still standing, that is not routed, and the side that has the biggest is the winner, forcing the loser to retreat to an adjacent friendly area. That's basically it. There's some more things with combat, and at the end of each round, players will be drawing some event cards and things that they can do between rounds depending on what's happened, and they'll be moving the warp storms around the board so that will stop moving from and to different areas. But that's basically the game. Remember, you're only going to use about half the board here for a 2-player game. You'll use 9 boards for a 3-player game and 12 for a 4-player game. You can go online and watch Sam and I playing a 2-player live game if you want to see how a whole game looks and the combat and different things, how that feels. Anyway, let's see what we think about it. Well, lots here to talk about. So first we'll start with the one I know we will agree on, and that is the component quality.
Very high.
Yeah, the ships, the little models, they look really good. I was really happy with the quality of the miniatures. I thought the artwork of the planets was amazing. Mm-hmm. They did a good job of integrating the theme. I know some people said it doesn't seem like it felt very 40K, but the cards, when I played the Eldar, for example, I recognized every card. Yeah. I knew everything because I know the Eldar really well. Right. And I recognized a lot of the Space Marine stuff because I've shot a lot of it. Or it shot me.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I liked about the components was that it wasn't cluttered with a bunch of components that you use every once in a while. You use pretty much all of the components all of the time. And there's a little tiny stack of stuff that you're not going to use this game. And then you're using everything else. And that's what I really liked about it. Most of the, well, not most, but a lot of the big box games, they'll bombard you with components and stuff that you'll use maybe once in a blue moon. This game didn't do that. You use most of what you have available to you every single time you play it. So that's per player, not just what's in the box. So that's what I really enjoyed. Great component quality, and they didn't blizzard you with it.
All right, and one of the things like I mentioned, I like the theme. I thought that it was really cool. They have the 4 factions in here, which I think are 4 legitimate factions for them to put in. I'm not a huge Chaos fan, but I know that they're 4 straight factions. I felt like the 4 factions were very different. Mm-hmm. The units had different stats. The extra action cards were different. The starting decks were different. There was nothing. The number of starting forces you get. Right. I really feel like, even though I don't know that they're like so different that you play different ways, but you can play slightly different with them. Yeah. It's obvious that the orcs are better on the ground than in the air. Yeah. It's obvious that the Eldar have more firepower than they have defense for the most part. Right. While the Space Marines might be the opposite. They can upgrade the fastest.
Yeah. Now, you can go heavy in those certain areas. Like what you were saying is the orcs are a little bit better on the ground than they are in the air, but you can still go heavy on the air and defeat other armies in the air, or rather in space.
Right, you're not like too restricted in it.
No, you're not at all. And that's what I liked about it. I think making the asymmetrical armies was necessary since they're using the 40K universe, because the armies in the 40K universe are definitely asymmetrical. There's some crossover with basic troops and stuff like that, but once you get into the elite forces and that type of stuff, there's a lot of differences, a lot of just very rich differences within each army. So I think they had to do that, and they did a very good job of it, I thought.
All right, let's talk about the big feature of the game is obviously the battle system. It's very unique and different. You're rolling dice, but you only roll them once, and then you're using cards to manipulate back and forth. And some people have said that they're not a big fan of the battle system, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't normally like card combat or extended combat, but I thought the combat in this game was so intriguing. And it may not be interesting to watch, but it's definitely interesting to think about when you're playing it. Because I'm sitting there going, okay, which card do I want to play? What card's he going to play? All right, am I going to go for attacking now or defense? So I need to keep my guys alive, or can I go for the all-out victory? Which one to do? And building your deck, because you're building up to these battles are a big deal. And I really enjoy them. It's my favorite part of the game.
Yeah, and one of the things that you hit on there is how you can, I guess it's maximize your army's capabilities in either offensive or defensive areas. Because I didn't think it was going to feel like this, but after a couple of plays, I can really see how you can say, no, I need to go defensive now, and you can use your cards to do that, and it actually feels very defensive. Or you can just go, I'm killing this sucker, right now, and you can go all out offensive, and the cards really allow you to do that. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about the deck building aspect of the game, was how you can make your army even more asymmetrical by the choices that you make and what you're going to upgrade and how you're going to upgrade it. I really enjoyed that about Forbidden Stars.
I also like that the game pretty much forces you to attack. There's no turtling, there's no building. I mean, you build up, obviously, but you can only build up so much.
Right.
So it's not so much about building your troops up, although you need to do that. It's about building that deck to match your troops, because you are going to get into a battle. You have to expand.
Right.
Now, what did you think? I think, personally for me, I like the game best as 2 players. Although it does work well with 3 and 4. The 4-player game is long. We're looking probably about an hour per player. The 4-player game can be long. My one problem with the 4-player game is if Sam and another guy are involved in a battle, I can watch it, and that's kind of entertaining, but it could take 5-10 minutes, that battle, and it's kind of downtime for you when you're not involved.
Man, downtime was brutal in a 4-player game. And so much so that
in a learning game, though, I would imagine it would be faster as time goes by.
I doubt it, because you've got 3 rounds of choosing what cards you're going to play, 3 rounds of adding up guns and shields and morale symbols, and that just translates to a lot of downtime for the 2 people that aren't integrated into the game. I'm wondering, this is the thought I had after that live play that we had. I wonder if they're going to have an allies expansion, where you are actually allies with one of the other 2 players, and they have cards that they can play to help you out in a battle.
Well, that's just conjecture. I don't know.
I know. It's just a thought that I had, but I think that would be a really cool expansion idea for it to cut out some of that downtime, because it was brutal in a 4-player game.
I didn't mind it as much as Sam. I do like the game best as 2-player, though, and I don't mind either way. I think with 3 or 4, it's still all mixed up together. You're combat all the time. You're never sure who's your friend. Well, no one's your friend, but you're never sure who you're going to fight next. And the warp storms kind of focus where you're going to go.
Yeah.
The event cards, there's just a lot of cool features of the game. Mm-hmm. So it's a longer game, and I'm not always wanting to play these longer games, but it is one that I'm adding to my collection. I really enjoy it, and for me,
what?
This is kind of a Twilight Imperium killer for me.
Oh, no way.
But not really, okay? Because in Twilight Imperium you have technology, and there's a lot of cool stuff in Twilight Imperium.
So much more.
The problem is that I will probably get a chance to play this more often.
Well,
okay, and so that's what I mean. Not that I think it's not the same genre. Well, it's space, but it's not the same. It's not a 4X game. This is mostly combat.
Yeah,
it's just build and fight. Mm-hmm. And I like that a lot. And so for 2-player, you can't play Twilight. Well, you could play Twilight 2, but it'd be kind of weird. This works really well with 2 and really well with 3.
Right.
So maybe this is better for shorter number of players, while if you have more than that, then you play Twilight. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, but I
think they're comparable, though, to some degree. They are space games.
Well, okay.
They're big box space games from Fantasy Flight.
Okay, well, Star Realms and they're both space games.
Well, that's not a big space game.
I'm just saying, though, this is on a different level completely from TI3. I would beg not to compare them actually, because they scratch different itches for me. This is a more compact 2 to 4 player game. Twilight Imperium 3 is a sprawling epic game. This is not sprawling, nor is it epic. It wants to do that, it tries to do that, but it ultimately fails at being epic or sprawling. And I don't think it's meant to be that way. I think it tries, but it's trying to be something that it's not. So that's my take. I would not compare it with TI3, and it does not even come close to killing TI3 in my opinion.
Well, for me, I'm not a huge fan of the 40K universe. I think it's awfully grim and dark. But I did like it a lot. I did enjoy it when I played it. And despite me not being a huge fan of the universe, I love this game. It's one of the best games of the year. I'm going to hang on to it. It's a solid, big game. I like it, like I said, especially with 2, 3, and 4, but that's fine. I'm going to give it 2 smoking blasters up. No, let's go with...
Smoking blasters?
Not blasters.
Star Wars?
What do we got? Las cannons in this one?
Sure.
What were the cannons that the Eldar used? I can't remember now. They were...
Wraith cannons.
Wraith cannons, okay. Yeah, 2 smoking Wraith cannons, but I don't know if they smoke or not. But anyhow, I really enjoy this. I love it a lot. It gives me great stories, and every time I'm done playing it, I go and I'm at bed at night thinking, ooh, I should have bought that card. I should have got those units here. No, it brings stories to mind, and that I enjoy. Forbidden Stars, for me, I think you should get it if you like this at all.
I'm there. I'm not completely there, though. I'm going to go with 1.5 plasma cannons up. The reason that I balked on the half cannon is because of the downtime in the 2 to 4 player in the 4 player, and I think it would be even worse in a 3 player game because you'd be the only person sitting there doing nothing. At least
getting more combat
with a 4 player.
Yeah. Always be fighting.
Well, that is the
ABF. That's my motto.
But with a 4 player game, at least you have the other person that you can carry on a conversation with, or talk to each other about the battle.
Or maybe you're fighting yourselves
or whatever. But that's the one thing that took it down a half a plasma cannon for me, is that downtime when you get up to the 4 player game. I think it's really detrimental. 2 player game, I really enjoy it. 2 player version, I would probably give the 2 full plasma cannons up.
All right. Well, that's Forbidden Stars. Check it out from Fantasy Flight Games.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.